I'm glad she did that, because if she did not, that would be basis for an appeal.
So do we see the PDP seriously moving forward with this court case or appeals on the grounds of election results?
They are very, very serious, and they believe that they have sufficient evidence to ask for maybe a re-election or whatnot, and they are pursuing it legally, which is the best thing to do.
Is this the first in many times? Because of course there's so many Nigerian politicians who always appeal election results just for the sake of appealing. But in this case, a lot of people are saying, well, Atiku is doing what he does every other year that he loses election. But does this seem different from every other time?
This one is, it was pre-planned. There's so much.
How do you mean pre-planned?
There's so much technicality involved. It's as if they sat down and said, okay, APC will do this, let us do this. You know, it's as if they did some homework before the election. They knew that some things would go wrong, and they suspected the things and put measures in place. And those are the measures that will be the shock, which could tilt the election, tilt the case in their favor.
Interesting. How long do you think that this situation might take? You know, like the court cases we have in Nigeria, they take forever, they drag on forever. Could it be one of those cases that may drag on until the end of the tenure of this administration?
400 witnesses. Let's say 400 witnesses. You have to take them examination in chief and cross-examine. So let's take one witness a week.
But what does it do in essence if, for example, this case drags to the end of this administration's tenure? He has nothing to lose because he leaves office after 4 years. So whether you win or lose, and I'm not trying to preempt anything, what's the essence at the end of the day?
If Atiku wins, it's a plus for the judiciary, and it's a plus for democracy. And they could ask President Buhari to pay him all his salaries, to refund all his salaries that he earned while he was president and all that, and also the vice president to do that.
Wow, but, interesting.
But still, I would estimate it to take at least 2 to 3 years.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Obi Ajegbo, legal practitioner, for speaking with us. The Senate on Wednesday flayed President Muhammadu Buhari over his continued failure to assent to the federal audit bill meant to strengthen and make ongoing fight against corruption effective. It would also be recalled that the bill was first passed by the upper chamber in 2018. The Federal Audit Service Bill seeks to empower the Office of the Auditor General to hold accountable and penalize government agencies and officials who refuse to submit their financial statements for audit. But since it was passed and submitted to Buhari for assent in 2018, the President has not assented or rejected the bill. Consequently, the Chairman Committee on Public Accounts, Senator Matthew Urogide, has recommended that the bill is repassed. The House of Representatives on Wednesday turned down a bill requesting for the reform of Nigerian police. The lawmakers at the lower chamber refused to pass the bill, after which it was passed by the Senate a month ago. The bill, which sought to revoke the Police Act of 2004, would provide the framework for police service, likewise ensure adequate collaboration between police and communities. Details of the bill include the establishment of a police fund, and a fine of 20,000 or 3 months imprisonment for officers caught taking liquor or intoxicating substance while on duty, establishment of community police reform, etc. The Chairman, House Committee on Police Affairs, Abubakar Lawal, in his contribution said despite the fact that the changes in police is needed, the bill is inconsistent with the Constitution. Moving on, over 1,000 Nigerians have indicated their readiness to join the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, in its suit against the planned move by the National Assembly to spend 4.68 billion naira welcome package on newly elected lawmakers. It was reported that the bill, or the National Assembly, planned to spend the money on 469 lawmakers who were elected on the platform of various political parties after the inauguration in June. In condemning the move, SERAP said it was illegal for lawmakers to receive 4.6 billion naira and vowed not to sue members of the National Assembly, or vowed to sue the members of the National Assembly and stop the illicit enrichment. Earlier on, we were joined in the studio by Adetokunbo Mumuni, Executive Director, SERAP, who shed more light on this.
Public money must not be spent in a manner that is undeserving. Let me ask you, live by what you will get as the emolument of salaries for that assignment. Look at the amount that is purportedly to be given to these members. Let's give it to them fully. Will you spend 4-point-something billion naira on in a private company for a person you engage privately? The amount should be reduced. It should make economic sense to the average Nigerian. You see, we are talking about an economy where the ordinary worker receives 30,000 naira. And you are now saying, because some people are elected to be legislators, they must now, 469 of them should now be entitled to about 4.6 billion. It doesn't make sense to us. That's the point. I mean, you see, out of office for public officers, it says you will solidarize with people. According to the principle of solidarity, you carry out this assignment without affection or ill will. You won't allow your private matters to get into the ways of public office. So when oaths are like that, and again, the Constitution of Nigeria says the welfare and security of the people shall be the primary purpose of God.
Candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in Osun State, Senator Ademola Adeleke, has taken the Inspector General of Police to court over his arrest and detention in Abuja. He still went ahead to arrest and detain the senator. He further claimed that on several occasions he had been asked to write a statement implicating the person of Senator Ademola Adeleke, but refused to cooperate. The case was again adjourned to Monday, June 17th, 2019. Still with us in the studio, we have Barrister Obi Ajegbo. Thank you very much for joining us, Barrister. Again,
thank you.
This story obviously has to do with Senator Adeleke, who's been in the news for all kinds of reasons. At some point, it was said that he duly had won the elections until another case of his SSCE result came back to the fore. Now, a court had issued that he not be detained or arrested until that case was duly determined. So what gave the police the right to detain him?
They might say they have discovered another lead and they have discovered another evidence. They have to follow it through and detain him.
So that could be one of the reasons.
That could be one of the reasons.
But what does the law say about a court judgment or when the court issues a statement saying don't do this?
Well, we have seen history, a litany of cases where the court has given order to release persons, they were not released, where the court has given orders for people not to be detained and they were detained. So that is the way.
But is the police not supposed to be working with the judiciary on issues, whether they be security, criminal, or whatsoever? Are they not supposed to be partners with the law?
They are supposed to be partners, but we've had cases whereby policemen went to search homes of certain persons and the police high command says they never instructed them.
So you're thinking that maybe the police was being overzealous?
Maybe the police was being overzealous, or maybe the instruction had been...
While South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa was among the first members of parliament to be sworn in on Wednesday, he issued a statement saying his deputy, David Mabuza, will not be sworn in as a lawmaker, having requested a postponement to address allegations he brought to the ruling African National Congress into disrepute. President Ramaphosa, who is also the leader of the ANC, is due to be elected on Wednesday by the 400 lawmakers in Parliament's National Assembly and the lower house, where his party holds the majority. He will be inaugurated on Saturday. The ANC easily won South Africa's May 8 general election, but its share of the votes fell, reflecting anger at corruption scandals and racial inequalities that remain entrenched in generations after the party had taken power. Algeria's Army Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Ahmed Gaid Salah, said on state television that he had no political ambitions in response to democracy. Activists who say that he intends to copy the authoritarian model of Egypt. The armed forces have been a pivotal power center in Algeria for decades and have been managing a transition after mass protests forced President Abdelaziz Bouteflika to resign last month after 20 years in office. Street demonstrations have continued to press demands for a dismantling of the elite of independence veterans, security commanders and business tycoons that have run the major oil and natural gas producer since independence from France in 1962. A presidential election has been scheduled for July 4, and Algerian activists say they are concerned that the army-steered transition towards democracy will prove illusionary, as in Egypt. The news continues after this short break. Stay with us. On the foreign scene, Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena has prolonged the nationwide state of emergency imposed immediately following a series of deadly attacks on Easter Sunday for another month, according to the Ada Derana news portal. The president signed a relevant document earlier in the day based on the current security situation in that country. An initial curfew was imposed in northwestern province of 12th May following civil unrest in the city of Chilao that was reportedly ignited by an inflammatory Facebook post meant to incite racial tensions. Several messaging applications such as Viber, WhatsApp and Facebook were blocked on 13th of May to prevent false propaganda. Sri Lanka has been on high alert since a string of bombings devastated the country on the 21st of April. The Trump administration is studying how to propose tariff increases on China imports will affect consumers and is at least a month away from enacting them. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin said this on Wednesday. He confirmed this at a hearing with lawmakers in the U.S. House of Representatives, adding that he had spoken with the chief financial officer of retailer Walmart about how the tariffs will impact consumer prices. He assured the House that the president will be focused before we make any decisions. Up next is our business news.
Getting relaxed at a great hotel and spa, shopping in the best malls of this world and touring the City of Gold. There is just one destination that can make you have all experiences in one. Discover Dubai with Wakanow.com. Book your travel with Wakanow and get free airport pickups in Dubai. Wakanow can book your flights, hotel, tours and much more. We have an international travel sim for use anywhere in the world with non-roaming rates. Contact Wakanow.com for the cheapest prices to Dubai. Wakanow.com.
The Nigerian railway system, taking a look from how it all began to where we are now.
We're so much happy with President. You can see the level of construction works ongoing. You can see the mammoth crowd behind who have come out to cheer the delegation from the Ministry of Transportation.
They are excited. It will cost them less to come to Lagos now.
We are saving costs for those who do business and encouraging people to do business and creating employment.
29 minutes from Lagos to Abeokuta. Amazing.
Quite impressive. It's a massive project.
So far, so content.
I feel great. I'm excited.
Premiering this Friday at 6:30 p.m. with a repeat broadcast at 9:30 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
The Nigerian stock market closed bullish with gains in Dangote Cement and MTN Nigeria. Irene Ubani brings us more.
The Nigerian stock markets closed positive after Wednesday's trade as the all-share index rose by 3.07% to close at 31,145.15. Total deals recorded was 4,835 deals with an equity capitalization of 13.717 trillion naira. Dangote Cement led the list of top gainers as its share price closed at a value of 203 naira per share, while MTNN also closed at a share price value of 144 naira 85 kobo per share. Leading the list of top decliners was Nestle, which dropped to a share price value of 1,320 naira per share, while ETI also dropped to 9 naira 15 kobo per share. However, leading the list of top trades was MTNN, which traded a volume of 93.722 million shares, valued at 13.575 billion naira. On sectoral indices, NSE Industrial gained 4.50%, NSE Insurance was down 0.50%, NSE Oil and Gas was down 0.27%, NSE Banking was down 2.67%, and NSE Consumer Goods was down by 3.57%. Irene Ubani for Plus TV Africa.
Still ahead on Plus TV Africa News is our roundup on entertainment and sports news. We'll be back in a moment.
No other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on, so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
The management of dancehall artist Shatta Wale has officially apologized for the fight that took place on the 20th edition of the Ghana Music Awards event, which held last Saturday. The statement reads, "We wish to render a sincere apology to all patrons of the 20th edition of the Vodafone Ghana Music Awards, viewers, organizers, sponsors, and Shatta fans worldwide for the unfortunate incident that took place during the VGMAs. Shatta Wale's management also made it known that their artist meant no harm to Stonebwoy. The dancehall artist won 2 awards in 2 categories, which include Reggae Dancehall Singer of the Year and High Life Song of the Year." A boxer by the name of Daniel Franco, who was signed to Jay-Z's sports agency, has filed a lawsuit for brain injuries he suffered in 3 fights in less than 80 days. According to Franco, he had advised the Rock Nation handlers to either cancel or postpone the fight, but he was pressured to go ahead to fight, where he lost in the 3rd round. He was later hurried into another fight precisely 50 days after, with a 3rd fight a month later. He's of the view that the Rock Nation official should have made sure he was medically fit for his 3rd fight, and believes that as a result he suffered 2 skull fractures and a brain hemorrhage that led to him being in coma. He's asking for undisclosed damages. And that's it on entertainment. The very best in sports is coming right after this.
Honey!
Daddy, please, can I go out with you and Mommy tonight?
Sure thing, sweetie. Get your shoes and we go.
Promise?
You have my word?
Daddy!
No, I wouldn't leave without you, my princess.
There's nothing more important than a promise. We are Fidelity. We keep our word.
And in sports, Borussia Dortmund have completed the signing of Belgium international Thorgan Hazard from fellow Bundesliga side Borussia Mönchengladbach. The 26-year-old midfielder has signed a 5-year deal for a fee reported to be around £30 million. Hazard scored 10 goals and registered 12 assists as Mönchengladbach finished 5th in the league. A former Chelsea youth player, Hazard spent 5 years at Mönchengladbach, and he has won 21 caps for Belgium and was part of the squad that finished the 3rd at last year's World Cup. Asamoah Gyan has reversed his decision to retire from international football after receiving a call from Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo. Gyan's Ghana records goal scorer with 51 goals in 106 appearances had announced his shock retirement just weeks before the 2019 AFCON after he was replaced as Ghana's captain by coach Kwasi Appiah. The 33-year-old has not featured for the Black Stars since September 2017 due to persistent injury woes and has struggled for playing time at club level too. In the incoming days, Coach Kwasi Appiah is expected to name striker Andre Ayew as the new captain, as well as release his provisional squad for the Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. Highly rated Nigerian midfielder Frank Onyeka has signed a 5-year contract extension with the Danish club FC Midtjylland. The announcement, which was made on the club's official website. 21-year-old has impressed with his strong work ethic as well as tremendous physical strength and is humble off the pitch. Speaking on the new multi-year deal, Onyeka said he will continue to work hard. He has the goal of becoming a regular part of starting line in the club. Onyeka joined FC Midtjylland in 2015 and is credited with 47 appearances in all competitions, scoring 9 goals. And that's our roundup of events at this hour. For more news updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube page at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines. Do join us then. And do have a great day.
The Nigerian railway system, taking a look from how it all began to where we are now.
We're so much happy with President. You can see the level of construction works ongoing. You can see the mammoth crowd behind who have come out to cheer the delegation from the Ministry of Transportation.
They are excited. It will cost them less to come to Lagos now.
We are saving costs for those who do business and encouraging people to do business and creating employment.
29 minutes from Lagos to Abeokuta. Amazing.
Quite impressive. It's a massive project.
So far, so content.
I feel great. I'm excited.
Premiering this Friday at 6:30 p.m. with a repeat broadcast at 9:30 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Thank you for joining us for another interesting conversation on One on One. My name is Felicity Ezewike. Today on the program, our guest is a retired Nigerian police officer who served as the 18th Inspector General of the Nigerian Police, IGP Solomon Arase. He was appointed IGP in 2015 by then-President Goodluck Jonathan. Before his appointment, Arase was head of the Criminal Intelligence and Investigation Bureau of the Nigerian Police Force. He holds a political science degree from the Ahmadu Bello University, a bachelor's degree in law from the University of Benin, and a master's from the...
Cutting down, with time. I've never had any dull moments. That has been the truth.
Okay. Happy to know that. I want us to get this conversation off, this particular question off before we proceed. Yeah. After your retirement, there were media reports that some exotic cars were allegedly found in your possession. You want to speak to that, please?
Do police buy exotic cars? The type of operational vehicles that the police buy, that we usually purchase are usually pickup vehicles. But I am entitled to, some exotic cars. As my position as an Inspector General of Police. Every Inspector General of Police, you retire with the BMW, 7 Series that you retired with, and 3 other cars. And those were the cars that I went away with. And actually, I left the country nearly 3 weeks when I left office. So I was still in the official quarters. So whatever vehicles that were there, they were not supposed to be, to my knowledge. They are usually transport officers, does not have the same intellectual and professional competence, like you, trying to step into, the space you have left. You will always expect things like that. So to me, I felt hot when it happened, because after putting in 35 years of, service into the Nigerian police force, I felt that I was going to retire, quietly.
Other issues now. There's been speculations in the media that you are choosing to stay out of public glare and that you don't want to capitalize on, your antecedents, professional antecedents to, get some sort of political relevance in the country. Would you want to speak on that?
Well, you see, we all have our own political, sympathies here or there, but I decided to stay off because when politics are not issue-based, I don't see myself getting myself involved in that. But that does not mean that I don't have sympathies, because I'm a Nigerian, I'm entitled to political platforms, but I'm not a loud person, and I'm not contesting for any office as at now. So I decided to just stay quietly, though I still have my sympathies for, a type of politics for the sake of my children, which I want to, this country to emplace one day.
Are you thinking of politics, vying for maybe a political office sometime in the near future?
No, not really, but I can always support people who I think, our views.
Will make some difference.
Yes, will make some difference in the country. Yeah.
Okay. You're retired. You're supposed to be resting after all the, stressful professional life. But you seem to have taken the bull by the horn, so to speak, to establish a law firm.
Yeah.
I think the name is Solomon Arase and Associates.
Yes.
What inspired you to do that?
Well, I read a law to the doctorate level, and I just felt that I should be able to create a platform for young people who are coming as a sort of mentoring, office. And along the line in my career, when I was a deputy commissioner of police, I had set up a foundation, an education foundation, for my late mother who was an educationist. So as we speak, I have been able to take about 32 students through university. About 15 of them are lawyers, some are medical doctors. So I said, okay, I can always leave my office for them to always, self-actualize, So that was one of the reasons why I set it up. Not that I have time to go to court or practice, but I just felt that I needed a place, that could act as a monitoring, as a mentoring ground for people who are coming, behind me. So that was one of the reasons why I set it up.
Some will say, well done, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, national issues. You are a security expert. That's the word we should be using at this moment. When you see the security situation in this country, how do you feel? Do you think that the fight against insurgency is achieving its purpose?
Well, that is a difficult one because insurgency in the northeast, where it is geolocated, is an asymmetric warfare. It's not a conventional warfare. And you will discover in most countries of the world where you have had issues of insurgency, it's not something you roll the tank over and say you have a defined enemy and you are going to deal with them, get them out of the way. It's not that easy. My only worry is that I think that we should look at other strategies and alternatives of dealing with this issue of insurgency in the northeast.
All right. Just recently, some police officers were arrested. Some of them even dismissed for their conduct with civilians. Some civilians lost their lives. Some are still in hospital as we speak. When you hear about this, what comes to your mind? As in, is it that the policemen are losing perspective?
I think we've not been able to do what we're supposed to do. About 3 or 4 years ago, before I left, I had incidents of extrajudicial killings, and I carried out a survey. I now saw that police officers who you post on the highway, they go through a lot of stress. And if you leave them there for after 8 hours, sometimes they suffer some temporary insanity. So I decided that I was going to introduce stun guns. And I actually brought in about 200 stun guns and dismantled those roadblocks and said, roadblock is not you know, a good security strategy for dealing with, you know, issues of internal security. I introduced the safer highways, you know, motorized patrols. We also introduced the idea of giving them lunch packs on those and fueling the vehicles. You see, when you remove those things that are likely to cause friction between members of the public and the police force, then you now have the moral attitude to go against them whenever they err. But you know, there was no sustainability of those policies that we came up with. The IG who took over from me did not follow up. If he had followed up, all these things we are seeing now will not be there.
Well, the current IGP is saying that he wants to reintroduce the stun gun. And some other persons are saying that police officers that are on the street should be disarmed completely. They can go with the stun gun. What do you say to that?
Well, like I was discussing with the CEO on our way here, I was in Oslo for a security summit last week. The police force in Norway, they don't carry firearms at all. Everybody is employed. They have free medical education, free medical services. They have free education. So it means that the level of crime in that society is very low. For the whole of last year, they had only 8 homicide cases. But our own society is not like that. You know, we are dealing with criminal gangs who are very, very violent. But what we are saying is that when you are dealing with criminal gangs, there are ways you can attack, you know, encounter those criminal gangs, but not, you know, law-abiding Nigerians who are plying the streets. You know, those roadblocks, they are not. I think we should dismantle them.
Okay, we still have a lot of questions to tackle on security, but we'll just go on a quick break. And when we come back, the conversation here on One on One continues with former IGP Solomon Arase. You're watching One on One on Plus TV Africa. I still have with me Solomon Arase. Thank you for staying, sir.
Thank you.
All right, before we went on that break, we're talking security and the police attitude and all of that. You talked about stun guns in your time, procuring some of this. What happened to them? Can you tell us?
The 200 we procured was supposed to, you know, be sent to the training institutions so that every policeman, when they go for their training program, either development courses or whatever, they now introduce them to, you know, the use of those stun guns. But you know, they kept them. They didn't implement that, and that is what the new IG has now thought, you know, necessary. That they should start teaching them the use of, you know, the stun gun.
Okay. Yeah. Will the budgets cover for that?
Well, you know, it's not something that is going to be incremental. I bought 200. If you know, it will be 3 years down the line since I retired. If they've been buying maybe 200, you know, by now, you know, what is the population? It's not every policeman that goes to the highway. So it would have been an incremental thing, and they will start increasing the stock as time goes on.
Well, you seem to have a lot of faith in what stun guns can do to curtail some of these excesses, but will it actually deal with the attitude of police? I mean, their relationship with people, will it change anything?
Well, the idea is that stun gun reduces fatalities. You know, it's not as an AK-47 that kills you instantly.
But the allegation is that when you use that stun gun once and use it again on the same person, there's a possibility.
You cannot use it on the same person for, you know.
Why how some of these police officers can be.
No, you can't use it on the same person. All it's supposed to do is just to neutralize you, you know, so that they can effect arrest. And, you know, there are rules and regulations on when to use firearms.
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be effective because these men, even the same set of police officers that will be going out with this stun gun or whatever it is.
It's all about training. It's all about capacity building. we have to be able to build the capacity of our, law enforcement officers to be sufficiently confident enough to interact with members of the public. Sometimes education tends to, paper off those rough edges that you have. The more educated you are, the more accommodating you are. You don't easily see people annoying you, telling you things that are likely to upset you. Wow. You could, in response, maybe convert it to a joke. I remember a British Prime Minister who went for a rally. They were using, tomatoes that were bad, and to picture him. And he looked at them and said, "Oh, you guys are lucky you even have potatoes and tomatoes and rotten eggs to throw at me. If it's the other political party, that comes to power, you will not have access to some." You see, you can always convert something that is negative to positive, and it's all about education. It's all about character.
Do you think the police force is doing enough to cater for the mental health of police officers?
When we were also there too, we had also introduced, health examination for people who handle firearms. We have a medical department.
Is it functional?
It's functional. It's functional. One of the retired, commissioners of police who started it, has now set up the same thing in Port Harcourt. What I'm talking about is that we don't deepen policies. We have good policies, we don't deepen them, we don't follow up. So when you don't do things like that and you don't sustain them, for every regime that comes, you leave the good things that have happened and you want to start new ones. Maybe those new ones are not well thought out. The strategic plans or the implementations are not well thought out. It will not work. So, we just have to find a way of making people at the strategic, leadership level to have the same mindset, the change mindset. Once you have a change mindset at the strategic level, most of these issues we are talking about, can easily be dealt with.
What about this outcry against SARS? There's been, it's been like a recurrent decimal. Johnson was the latest victim, and of course we always get this condolence visit and all of that. What is the solution to this? Several efforts have been made. You had federal SARS, and then they disbanded them for a bit. I don't know. What is the situation?
The same problem we're talking about. SARS has been there for close to 20, 25 years. When the former IG took over, leadership, he decentralized SARS. And when he decentralized it, there was a leadership vacuum. When you make a superintendent of police or a chief superintendent of police to be in charge of, such a body, and is not answerable to the commissioner of police in the state, then you are giving him too much powers than he's supposed to, to possess. So that was what the problem was. The command and control and the standard operating procedure was distorted. Now this new IG has come back to put it back into place, to say, okay, no, all the SARS people, you are going to be under the commissioner of police. I will hold you people accountable for whatever, misconduct that happens in your state. That way, the command, the control of the men will be there.
Should this be left for, when one IGP comes in and then you make the policy? Can't it be entrenched in the law?
It's supposed to be entrenched. They are there. It is, it's about management style. All of us have our different management style. Even you, the way maybe you come up with policies that, your organizational policies, the way you come up with the implementation may be different from the other way your other colleagues will come up with it. It's about an individual. So when the things are there, it is when you want to operationalize it, that is where the problem comes from. So we should be able to take, you see, in this country...
Should they be eradicated? Should they be removed from the system completely? And normal police officers, maybe, I think you used to head a section, criminal intelligence bureau at the time. Do we still have that? Can't they do the work?
They are supposed to be situated on that. There is supposed to be a commissioner under that department. That is what I was telling you. that when you have these gaps, then the people, the men sometimes they just have the leverage to go ahead and do. They are supposed, the Commissioner of Police is supposed to be a department under the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Intelligence and Investigation. So when they removed it and made it autonomous and say, oh, yeah, the CP is now answerable to the Inspector General of Police, then the guys, they just, there was no more control. But we also need training too.
Do you see some sanity coming in the system soon?
Oh yes. Adamo is a deliberate police officer. You could see, he's not excessive. You could see his approach to issues, they are measured. So all we just pray is that, we should be able to support him with, good advice and, strategic plans about how to go about it. I think he should be able to turn the situation around.
Okay. I have so many questions bubbling in my head, but let's take this one on state police.
Yeah.
What's your position on that? Wouldn't it help some of these issues?
Yeah, policing is local. From where we got our own policing culture from, the Brits, they have 43 counties. The 43 counties, that they have, it's like state police. But then what they do is that they enforce municipal laws. That is laws. Like in Lagos State here now. For example, you have the environmental laws, you have the LASMA. Those are the ones that they are supposed to do. But when it comes to serious crimes, it is always sometimes better because of the trans-border nature of these crimes to handle it centrally. Especially when you are talking about capacity, you are talking about resources, you are talking about training. Even the British police that we're talking about, you will see now that with insurgency, fraud, corruption, and all those things, they have now set up the National Crime Agency. Whereas the USA has set up the Homeland Security. All these are now converging into centralized policing. But it is also good to give the local police some authority to exercise some discretion, implement things like community policing, neighborhood watch. All those are local policing cultures that they can easily drive, with.
Okay. Still on police issues, before we move on to some other security matters, there is this sense among a lot of Nigerians that police officers don't really care whether they are on duty or not. They take alcohol, they take drugs, and they're still in the field. And most people also believe that this contributes to some of these random shooting that happens, indiscriminate use of weapons. Is there anything you think that the police force can do to stop police officers who are on duty from taking alcohol and other hard drugs?
It's all supervision. It's a stressful job. If you watch most police forces outside, our jurisdiction, they don't work for more than 8 hours. And you even know that in the public service too,
8 hours
those days, 8 hours, But when you now have a police force, because of the numeric strength, you have to work for maybe 12 hours. And when you're coming from that 12 hours, they are still asking you again to come back for another special duty or something like that. It takes a toll on you. And some people cannot manage stress. And the only way they can manage it is to take solace either in alcohol or drugs. Those are the
but this is affecting the work that they do. It's reducing their competence.
That's what I'm saying, that it will require some internal re-engineering. That is why we were recommending, their mental health has to be assessed. If a supervisor sees that the worker is already stressed out, why do you have to still put that type of person post a person for a duty? So sometimes, the system itself does not encourage good conduct from, their personnel. Sometimes we put too much pressure on them. So we must be able to see how we can manage.
What would be the possible solutions to this? Do we need to recruit more police officers?
Yes, of course.
And is the funding even available to cater for new recruits?
The funding should be there. If state governments are advocating for more manpower, how much do you pay a constable? But it is not the numeric strength of the policemen that matters. it is the quality of the policemen that matters. So our recruitment policy has to take into consideration, you know, the qualification of those people. Then why can't the government, you know, invest in security equipment? I give you an example. For this your facility now, if you are going to put up a facility like this, they will say, okay, go for the most stubborn in that family. You know, why not go for the best in that family?
Good question. All right, let's go back to the question of insurgency again. I want to pick your brains on the Chibok girls issue. It's been 5 years since they were abducted. And then we also have Leah Sharibu. It's now over a year since she's been abducted. A lot of persons are worried that the government is not doing enough to bring back these girls and that the security agencies are not up to par with their responsibility because they should be working with intelligence and ensure that these girls are brought back. So what do you think is the delay?
Of course, you know, they could be, you know, some may have died, you know, because of the terrain and under the circumstances under which the insurgency they work. It's possible that some are not alive, but it's not something that one can be categorical about. We only pray that it doesn't happen again, and that if it happens, you know, that our response is more strategic and prompt.
All right, before I let you go, I must ask you about the Police Trust Fund bill that was just recently passed by both houses of Assembly. Will that have any real impact on policing in Nigeria?
Profound and tremendous impact, because, you know, what it's meant to do is to pool resources together. In all the countries of the world, in the United Kingdom, for every phone call that you make, for every card that you buy, maybe £5, £10, £20, you know, a pound or two is set aside for security. It's an unseen taxation. You don't see it, you know, but it is there. Those ones are the ones they use in funding police. You know, and, you know, all those parking, they are giving you parking cars. And then, you know, you have businesses, they contribute maybe 1% of their, you know, annual turnover. So it's going to be a huge pool, you know, of resources for the police. Once it is properly managed, I think it's going to be something that is...